Marvel's back, and this time Spider-Man and Thor are fighting a whale. The MCU is really falling off. The movie opens up in 1850 when an author named Herman Melville arrives at Nantucket Island. The purpose of his visit is to meet an old innkeeper named Thomas Nickerson, the last survivor of the sinking of the whale ship Essex. When Herman knocks on the door, Thomas's wife, thinking he's a customer, says that they're closed. However, Herman shows her a letter and introduces himself, eventually gaining access. Following this, he goes to Thomas and expresses his wish to hear the story of Essex, but the old man refuses to talk to convince him. Herman offers all the money in his wallet in return for the story, but to no avail. He's only got 3 Dions and 2 Schmeckals anyway. Instead, Thomas makes some mean remarks asking him to leave, feeling humiliated. The author tries to leave, but Thomas's wife stops him. She apologizes on behalf of her husband and requests him to wait for a while. She then goes to talk to her husband and reminds him of how they're struggling financially. They need the Schmeckals at last. Thomas agrees to the request of his wife. He tells Herman that he'll share the story for as long as he can bear it. Following this, the movie takes us back to 1820, the time when whale hunting was prevalent. People used to hunt down whales and extract their oil. The oil was so rare that people would trade as well as gamble for it. We are introduced to a Nantucket farmer and whaler named Owen Chase, who is happily married to a woman named Peggy. Owen works for a whaling company, and one day he excitedly goes to meet his superior executives who have promised to hire him as the captain for their new ship. You guessed it, Essex. However, his excitement fades away when he learns that the executives have reconsidered their decision and have demoted him to first mate. Instead, they have hired George Pollard as the captain, who is an inexperienced mariner from an established whaling family. Owen is clearly upset by this and decides to walk away, but they promise to provide him the captaincy next time. They also increase his wage in an attempt to convince him. Owen agrees on the condition that they sign a written contract promising the captaincy. The next day, he gets ready for his year-long whale hunting expedition. But his wife appears concerned before he leaves. She hands him her locket, making him promise that he'll return home safe later. That day, all the whalers gather at the ship dock to watch a group set off on Essex A-14Y. Old Thomas is also in the same ship, working as one of the cabin boys as the ship sails off. Captain George starts ordering his juniors, causing a minor rift between them. A short while later, there seems to be a problem. The ship's sail becomes stuck, causing it to start losing its balance. Seeing this, Owen takes the matter in his own hands and professionally climbs up a mast to unfurl the sail. George, who is inexperienced, feels a twitch of envy upon witnessing his skills. As a result, he takes his revenge on the dining table that night. George makes some mean remarks about Owen and his father, which infuriates the latter. However, he can't fight back with the captain, so he leaves the table abruptly, feeling humiliated. From the next day on, George again starts to give orders to Owen, who has no choice but to cooperate. The poop deck is almost certainly involved. At one point, Owen witnesses a sea storm approaching towards them. He hurriedly shares this with the captain and suggests that they change their ship's direction. However, George disregards his advice and decides to move forward soon after the storm hits the ship, damaging it badly. While in the middle of the storm, the captain orders that they retreat, but Owen claims that it's already too late and urges the people to hold on. Thankfully, the people in the ship manage to hold on and save their lives after surviving the storm. George shares his decision to return back to Nantucket Island to repair the ship. He also asks to write an apology letter, mentioning that he didn't follow the captain's orders and endangered the crew's life. This enrages Owen, who finally speaks up, claiming that it was George's decision to sail into the storm and risk the crew in response. The arrogant captain yells at Owen, urging him not to cross his boundary. He also starts boasting about his family's historical reputation. After a while of heated discussion, the two eventually agree to put their differences aside and work together. The scene then fast forwards 3 months, and Essex is now in the middle of the sea. At this point, they finally locate a large number of whalers swimming nearby. Without wasting any time, they board their walling boats and sail towards the majestic creatures to hunt them down. Upon approaching them, Owen harpoons a sperm whale, causing it to dive deep into the sea. The crew waits for the whale to die, but it continues to swim downward as their ropes start running out. The crew suggests cutting it loose to avoid being dragged down. Despite this, Owen insists on waiting and his insight pays off when the whale dies just before they run out of rope. Following this, they tow the whale towards the ship and initiate the oil extraction process. However, the opening in the whale's head isn't big enough, which creates difficulty in the extraction process. As a result, Thomas, being the youngest and smallest among the crew, and because it's a sperm whale, and Thomas can shoot sperm out of his wrists, is tasked with entering the whale's head to scoop out the remaining oil. Several months pass since their first hunt, and no more whales appear for the Essex. The biggest problem is that they're running out of their food. George realizes that the Atlantic Ocean holds no sighting of whales, and as a result, the Essex sails past Cape Horn to the Pacific, hoping for better luck in catching one after a very long journey. They arrive at Atacames, Ecuador, butchered that there. They meet with a Spanish captain who tells them that his crew found the bountiful offshore grounds 2,000 miles to the west, but he also reveals that a vengeful, enormous white whale destroyed his ship, killing 6 of his men. Regardless, George and Owen dismiss the story as a myth and lead the expedition westward. Exactly 14 months pass when they arrive at offshore ground, situated in the heart of the sea. Just as the Spanish captain said, the Essex crew finds a pot of whales. The crew is very happy and excited, thinking that they can extract as much oil as they need and return home. They instantly launch their whaling boats and sail in the direction of the whales, but as they prepare to begin the hunt, a massive sperm whale with white scarred skin attacks Owen's boat, flipping it upside down, following. This, Owen and his team swim back to Essex and start repairing their boat quickly. Amidst this, the white whale suddenly attacks the Essex, causing water to leak from the base. This sends the crew into a state of panic. However, Owen is still adamant on hunting this white whale, so he doubles the harpoon and hurls it towards it. The harpoon hits the target right on point, and the whale starts swimming down. Soon after, the rope, which is tied to the mast, runs out, due to which the entire ship begins to collapse as a consequence. The harpoons penetrating the whale's body also detach, freeing it again. Now, with the Essex sinking at a rapid pace, the crew decides to abandon it. They hurriedly grab as much food supplies as they can and get on the 3 intact whaling boats. Just then, the whale oil the crew had gathered earlier catches fire, causing the entire ship to explode. Now the crew must sail hundreds of miles to shore with very limited supplies. The following morning, they analyze the sea map and set off towards their tough journey. A few days pass by, and they are again hit by a sea storm. The storm is so powerful that one of the crew members, named Matthew, who is also Owen's childhood friend, gets injured. The crew manages to survive the storm and continues their journey. But as the weeks pass by, they grow extremely tired and are forced to survive with a mere piece of biscuit as their daily food. Despite this harsh situation, Owen takes care of his injured friend. But the rest of the members consider Matthew to be a burden that they want to eat. After 34 days of being stranded, they finally spot an island, lifting their spirits, filled with a new sense of hope. They all sail towards the same. As they are about to approach the shore, Owen senses something amiss, and he instructs everyone to stop it. Turns out to be the same white whale that has been following them from the very beginning. The whale launches another attack on the crew members, destroying their boats and throwing them into the water. Some of the crew members are killed, some drown, while others wash ashore on the island. As soon as they reach the island, they devour any edible things available, such as raw fish and bird eggs. Later that night, they camp inside a small tunnel on the island. They also ignite a fire, hoping to catch the attention of any passing ships. However, even after several weeks, no one comes to their rescue. One day, while searching for food, Owen discovers some dead bodies of earlier castaways in a cave. This makes him realize that help may never arrive, and they might end up with the same fate. Owen then urges the crew members to leave, as they might die waiting on this island before another ship passes by. Following this, they start repairing their damaged boat to leave the place on the day of departure. Everyone agrees to leave, except for 4 men, including the injured Matthew, who have given up. Even though there is very little hope, Owen promises to send a rescue team once he reaches home. After this, he and the rest of the crew members sail off on their boats on the 48th day of being stranded. One of the crew members dies on the boat out of starvation. The others decide to wrap the body and cast it into the sea. But Owen intervenes. He tells them not to throw away something that can keep them alive. The members are shocked by this idea, but they are forced to cannibalize him for their survival. This harsh and grim moment breaks the young Thomas into tears. In the present, the older Thomas is overcome with remorse for his cannibalism and stops his story. Herman, deeply moved by the story, asks if Thomas has told anyone about it. Thomas admits he hasn't even shared it with his wife, fearing that she might not love him for what he did at that very moment. His wife, who has been secretly listening to the story, walks in and reassures that she still loves him. She too likes the taste of weenus. This encourages Thomas to finish the rest of his story, back to the past. The crew members have been stranded for 71 days. The 3 boats are now separated by the currents, and unfortunately, one is lost. The situation is deteriorated to the point that the men in George's boat even draw straws to determine who should be sacrificed for their next meal. One day, the white whale shows up one more time, and Owen gets into position for a final attack. The whale breaches for a moment, allowing Owen to see a portion of his previously thrown harpoon still embedded above the whale's eye. Owen hesitates and stares into the whale's left eye as the creature stares back at him. If Owen is imagining himself to be this thing's equal, he's a goddamn idiot. Owen then lowers his harpoon, deciding not to kill the whale following this encounter. The majestic white whale swims away peacefully and is never seen again. After a few more days, a passing ship spots George's boat, and they are rescued. Meanwhile, Owen's boat continues to drift with no food or water. The survivors are on the verge of death when their boat thankfully reaches one of the islands in Chile. From there, the survivors are rescued and brought back to Nantucket, where they finally reunite with their distressed families. But before the survivors return home, they are summoned by the Nantucket ship's owners to discuss the incident. The executives asked George and Owen to cover up the story to protect the industry's reputation. However, Owen refuses, claiming that it would be unfair to dismiss what the crew had gone through, having enough of their dishonesty. Owen resigns and leaves that day. The young Thomas meets Owen one last time, and the latter hands him a whalebone pin before departing the following day at the court. George, who is motivated by Owen's words, reveals the truth, much to the executive's anger back in the present. Thomas says that Owen, being a man of his word, sent a ship to rescue the surviving men in the earlier island. Regrettably, Matthew had already passed away, but the team successfully rescued the other 3 survivors, according to Thomas Owen, then continued sailing the seas and became a merchant captain, while George carried out another failed attempt to find and kill the whale. After hearing the entire story, Herman expresses gratitude to Thomas, acknowledging that he has learned a new lesson: cannibalism. Courage in the final scene. We see that Herman has completed his novel by the name of Moby Dick, which became a biggest hit in America. Probably because Dick was in the title. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.